McGraw-Hill Ascent Audio presents The Leadership Accelerator, the Playbook for Transitioning into Your New Executive Role, by Ajit Kambil, narrated by Peter Lerman. Preface. The purpose of this book is to help you accelerate your transition and establish yourself in a new executive role. Transitions can be energizing, challenging, and risky. Various authors suggest nearly 40% of all executive transitions are estimated to fail within the first 18 months to 2 years. Ineffective transitions to an executive role, especially in the C-suite, are costly. When newly hired executives do not meet expectations, organizations incur considerable expenses and forego the execution of critical initiatives. For individuals, ineffective transitions often lead to career derailment. Transition leadership is different from everyday leadership. It can be an intense experience as new executives seek to establish themselves with their peers and staff. Like the difference between running a sprint and a marathon, it requires different muscles and strategies. As transitions can be infrequent for most successful executives, their transition skills can atrophy. Furthermore, many companies do not do a great job with onboarding new executives. Our purpose in writing the Leadership Accelerator is to help you build muscles to succeed in transitioning to your new role. This book is grounded in research and practice undertaken over a decade. Beginning in 2009, I undertook several interview-based research studies of executives transitioning to new leadership roles to determine critical success factors. This led to a model for transition leadership, which found new leaders need to effectively manage time, talent, relationships, and transformation to succeed in their new role. The research also led to the creation of Transition Labs, a one-day personalized client experience and process where executives frame their own priorities, assess and design their own go-forward talent strategy, determine their stakeholder and influence strategies, and create their own 180-day to 1-year work plan. Since June 2010, we at Deloitte have successfully delivered over 4,000 transition labs to various C-suite executives in the United States. Having created the Transition Lab method and having personally delivered over 350 labs to many of Deloitte's important and discerning C-suite clients, I previously synthesized lessons learned in numerous essays on Deloitte Insights beginning in 2013. This book builds on these essays, ongoing interview and research efforts, and client responses to frameworks and methods in our transition labs. The book is organized in 6 sections. 1. Start smart. We start by demolishing the prevailing myth of the first 90 and 100 days. We introduce the time, talent, relationships, and transformation model underpinning the book, and the 4 phases of the executive leadership model to clarify emerging expectations of C-suite executives. This section also helps you frame the critical elements of your context that will likely shape your transition strategy. 2. Prioritize time and energy. Here we examine different ways you can effectively utilize and manage your most scarce resources, your time and energy during a transition. Time is often the most constrained resource available to new executives, and prioritization is critical to success. This section goes beyond time management strategies to help you frame and de-risk your critical go-forward goals and priorities. This section also helps you create elevator pitches to effectively communicate your priorities and build support and resources for your key initiatives. 3. Manage talent, teams, and your organization. The wrong talent can squander precious time. This section considers critical resources to help incoming executives develop and execute a talent agenda. It examines ways to assess and develop individual talent, teams, and an organization to effectively deliver the future. 4. Manage relationships. Transitions are a critical period for developing key peer and stakeholder relationships. This section explores how you can accelerate your relationships, determine what stakeholders want and do not want, and effectively communicate with and influence stakeholders to help execute your agendas. 5. Drive transformation and performance. Boards and CEOs increasingly want C-suite executives who can think strategically and drive change that improves organization performance. This section considers some tools to identify strategic opportunities, create a more systematic strategy process, and overcome resistance to change to successfully drive initiatives. 6. Conclusions. This section of the book looks at formulating a realistic go-forward action plan that accounts for time, talent, relationships, and transformation. It also considers how to prepare for success and the importance of a balanced plan that meets your company's needs as well as your own. I am very grateful to the many thousands of executives who have shared their time, insights, and wisdom as they have done our transition labs. We have learned a lot from you all in shaping this book. We recognize that your time during a transition is valuable, so our chapters are short and actionable. Each chapter concludes with clear takeaways and workout exercises that can help you build your transition leadership muscles and define your transition leadership strategies and work plans. I am also grateful to my numerous colleagues over the years for their commitment to learning and delivering excellent transition lab experiences to our clients. By combining the transitions knowledge embodied in this book with industry, client company, and role-specific knowledge, our client teams and the Executive Accelerators program have delivered both useful and highly rated transition lab experiences for our clients. I hope you all as readers are very satisfied with this book in helping you effectively progress on an exciting new executive career journey. Ajit Kambil, Ph.D. Austin, Texas, New York, New York, Alicante, Spain. Part 1. Start Smart. Chapter 1. Beware the myth of the first 90 or 100 days. Popular business books on transitions with titles like The First 90 Days or the slightly more generous The New Leader's 100-Day Action Plan place perilous time constraints and quick-win expectations on new members of a C-suite. Various articles also propagate the concept of the first 100 days. But here's some good news for executives. A compact time frame may make for a great business title, but it doesn't reflect what really happens in the C-suite. In the C-suite, transitions take a lot longer. Indeed, our research on executive transitions across multiple C-level roles shows that most executives frame their initial plans and establish themselves in their new C-suite role over a longer time frame than the prevailing norms of the first 90 or 100 days. We first knew something was amiss in 2009 when we began a study of CFO transitions and overwhelmingly found that chief financial officers typically plan around a 6-month period to establish themselves in their roles. In June 2010, we launched the Transition Lab in the United States, which is a one-day workshop where executives frame their go-forward priorities, assess their teams and frame influence strategies, and develop plans to execute their priorities. We have executed over 4,000 labs in the United States across varied C-suite roles. Many executives come to our transition labs toward the end of, or more often after, the first 90 days. We also found in our interviews of board members, CEOs, and peer executives that they rarely set a 90 to 100-day expectation upon the incoming executive. What they want is an executive who listens and establishes connections with peers and really learns the business before formulating a go-forward strategy and initiating change. They also do not want an executive who comes in and breaks what is working. This simply takes time. Thus, what we have learned from our transition lab is that the first 90 days are a busy, important time for C-suite executives, especially in large companies. It's a period to get to know and understand the operation. Typically, a 6-month planning horizon is more the minimum realistic time frame to execute an effective transition, and even that can be an ambitious target. So why not dispense with the myth of the first 90 days and give yourself at least 6 months or more? First, in larger or more complex organizations, it takes time to take stock of how the business really operates and establish meaningful connections with key peers and staff. Unlike more junior-level issues, at the C-level, incoming executives often inherit ambiguous and unstructured issues that require time to make sense of, structure, and resolve. If you are recruited from outside the industry, it can take even longer to learn and understand the issues and specific nuances of different product divisions and their markets. Second, and perhaps most importantly, 6 months is generally the minimum period required to critically assess your team and restructure it as needed with new hires. The higher you go, the more you accomplish through others on your team. Having a strong team of direct reports with effective organizations beneath them is vital to your effectiveness. But it takes time to assess direct reports, hold skip-level meetings, recruit new staff, and restructure an organization amid ongoing projects. It can easily take a year or more to restructure a team. Another demand often promulgated by business articles and books about transitions is the need to generate quick wins. For the most part, this is also an urban myth. In the 1,000-plus interviews of CEOs, boards, and peer executives I have undertaken in preparation for a transition lab, a quick win was mentioned less than a handful of times. Senior executives are recruited to produce the right wins and significant results. Thus, generating meaningful and recognizable wins in the first 90 days is less important than working on the most important and daunting problems confronting a company. Senior management also wants to see tangible progress toward resolving the issues on a timeline that makes sense for the business. Thus, if you dispense with the urban myths of the first 90 to 100 days or the need for quick wins, how might you utilize your first 6 months in a C-suite role? There is no fixed answer for this, but the following sections give a generalized structure for consideration that can be adapted to each individual situation. Day 1 to 30 days. Enumerate and connect with as many of your most important stakeholders, direct reports, and perhaps one level down to begin working relationships with all these people. Listen to the stakeholders and establish hypotheses about critical issues needing attention in the company or by you in your new position, staff capabilities, and how you can effectively operate in the organization. This is a period of listening and connecting to stakeholders and absorbing critical information from them. It is not generally one of setting and pushing a new agenda. This initial period of absorption and sense-making is critical to shaping future agendas that are more likely to succeed. In fact, we usually require our lab participants to marinate for at least 30 days in their new role so they can absorb crucial organization issues before they come to the lab session. The first days are often likened to drinking from a fire hose. Beyond connecting to new stakeholders and getting a lot of new information, some internally promoted executives often find themselves still doing their old job during this period. 30 to 90 days. First, keep connecting with stakeholders. Second, start to define an initial set of signature priorities for you and your team. Build an initial go-forward plan to validate with your key stakeholders. perhaps by the end of 90 days. Where you are uncertain about the capabilities of specific direct reports, and possibly one level down, you can frame particular assignments to clarify their capabilities. These assignments are ideally completed or have clear milestones within the next 45 to 60 days, which enables you to assess individuals' capabilities. Ideally, by the end of 90 days, you have a good feel for your direct reports, and you'll know who you want to keep or where you will need to hire new talent. Third, if there is a burning platform issue or inherited train wrecks, take some concrete steps to diagnose and frame the issues and establish stakeholder consensus to set them on a corrective path. Fourth, use this honeymoon period to also decide what initiatives need to be stopped or deferred to free resources for more important priorities. 90 days to 1 year. Ideally, get your direct report team in place with the right people in the right seats. Complete recruiting staff to supplement your broader team as needed and begin work on your signature priorities. Consider executing a communications strategy that reinforces the culture you desire within your organization and effectively communicates your team's priorities and accomplishments to stakeholders. Communicate and demonstrate that you are hitting milestones as you progress toward a set of right wins. Ideally, some right wins will also be quick wins, but it is generally more important to focus on the wins being right than to divert attention to speed of execution. The takeaways. Start smart by dispensing with the myths of the first 90 or 100 days and quick wins. Set a more realistic time frame and focus on the right wins to help you execute a realistic transition leadership strategy. The stakeholder interviews of CEOs, boards, and peer executives undertaken to prepare for transition labs show that these stakeholders recognize that it takes time to assemble a team and establish a foundation for sustained results. Begin your transition journey by giving yourself the gift of time you truly deserve to get it right for you and your company. The Workout, Chapter 1. First Steps, the Next 60 Days. Who? In the next 30 days, who must you meet? Stakeholders. Staff. What? In the next 60 days, what must you know, maintain, change? When will you realistically be ready with a go-forward plan? Number of days from now or date. Chapter 2. Time, Talent, Relationships, and Transformation. From our research and transition labs, we find there are 4 key pillars to effective transition leadership. These are the management of time, talent, relationships, and transformation. Focusing on these 4 pillars can help you cut through the noise and attend to what is important to make your transition a success. This chapter introduces these 4 pillars and why they are important to consider in a transition. Chapter 3 introduces the 4 phases of leadership, and Chapter 4 examines hopes, fears, and legacy that can shape transitions. The remainder of this book, beginning in Chapter 5, looks at how to effectively manage the 4 pillars. Time. Time is your one irrecoverable resource, so it is imperative you prioritize and guard the use of your time during a transition. The flood of issues crossing the incoming executive's desk can be overwhelming as executives get pulled into meetings, receive scores of emails, and launch listening tours to get a handle on the key issues. For many C-suite executives at our large international clients, we often hear about 70 to 80-hour work weeks during the transition. Weekdays typically start in the office at 7 a.m. and end at 7 p.m., and much of that time is spent on calls and in meetings. This will then be followed, usually after dinner, with 1 to 2 hours spent clearing the email inbox. On the weekends, work often starts on Sunday afternoon or evening to prepare for the week ahead. The hassles of traveling to varied global locations only adds to the demands on an individual's time. Such an intense schedule is not sustainable at a consistently high level of performance. Most of the executives in our transition labs seek a target work week of 50 to 60 hours after their transition period. In addition to the long hours spent working, there are many facets to time that a transitioning executive should consider. These include what part of the work week goes to critical priorities and how many critical priorities should they choose to own. Typically, if the work week is 60 hours, no more than 30 hours can be allocated to their signature initiatives given the issues that arise day to day. We also find it is hard to allocate enough time to more than 5 of these initiatives at any one time. What is the time frame for completing the transition and establishing oneself? In the last chapter, we noted the myth of the first 90 days. Based on our experience, we recommend incoming executives consider taking 6 months or more to really learn the business and establish their go-forward strategies. We also recommend that they complete their team as much as possible by the end of their first year. After the first year, your brand is defined by both you and your team. If there are substantial deficiencies in the team, your peers and staff will likely wonder why you haven't addressed them. What is your expected time frame in the role? This shapes how much of your transformation agenda you are likely to execute and timelines for talent development. If, for example, you are likely to be in the role for only 3 years, you will need to see if you can groom a successor candidate from your inherited pool of staff to be ready in 3 years. Or you may have to recruit someone to be that candidate over the next 2 years. Typically, individuals at the executive level have about 5 years on average in the role. If the first year is taken up by transition and team building, then 4 years are left to drive a transformation and deliver a legacy objective. The preceding time dimensions set useful constraints around which to work on your transformation agenda. You may want to consider the following regarding how you use your time and communicate the use of your time. 1. Establish and communicate a realistic time frame for establishing a go-forward plan with your boss and other key stakeholders early in your tenure. As I discussed in the last chapter, dispense with the myth of the first 90 or 100 days and set realistic expectations close to 6 months or even a year on some issues. 2. Make enough time to establish relationships with key stakeholders. Influential and good relationships with key stakeholders make it easier to move your agenda forward. Thus, it is critical to spend time early on establishing a personal, one-on-one connection with key stakeholders and hearing their concerns and needs. So, in the initial months, it is imperative to plan and make time for listening tours. 3. Frame a few key priorities. A key to a successful transition is to frame 3 to 5 key priorities and make some tangible progress on them in the first 6 months to a year. Make these priorities and their value elevator ready by succinctly framing them. 4. After 60 to 90 days, take stock of where your time and your team's time is going. Decide what can and must be stopped. Stop the unproductive meetings or the less important projects that drain you and your best talent, so you can focus more productively on your most important priorities. 5. After 60 to 90 days, establish a personal time discipline and calendar that energizes you. Work out how you will prioritize meetings on your agenda and what days you will undertake certain routine activities so that you're not switching excessively across topics. The aforementioned steps, combined with the content of chapters 5 through 8 on managing time, can help you effectively conserve time and energy and direct it toward the most productive outcomes. Your time and energy are your most valuable personal resources in a transition and beyond, so guard and use them well. Talent. You can't do your job alone. No senior executive can. You are dependent on your new team to deliver results from day one. Generally, executives must address a talent agenda with the following 3 items fairly quickly after a transition. 1. Getting the right people in the right seats. This can entail assessing the inherited staff and recruiting or reassigning staff to effectively deliver key priorities. 2. Building a high-performing leadership team. Often, incoming executives inherit broken organizations and teams, with each direct report driving isolated initiatives. Resetting these behaviors and establishing a team can be vital to delivering key priorities. 3. Designing a future-ready organization for you. The organization you inherit is often designed for the previous leader and a previous agenda. It is important to design the organization to best serve you as well as the future needs of your company. Given that talent is key to your success, you're likely to spend at least a half day and most likely a full day each week executing your talent agenda in the first 6 months to a year. There is a time-talent trade-off. Having the wrong talent ends up draining your time, so it is critical to get the team and organization structure right as expeditiously as possible. Ideally, that means within the first year, so that your brand is not adversely impacted. Chapters 9 through 15 deal with managing talent. Relationships. New executives must foster relationships with a wide range of stakeholders during their transitions. Dialogue with stakeholders can shape priorities, and good relationships make it easier to move forward on key priorities. Most importantly, incoming executives must invest in building capital to exercise influence and, if needed, to drive transformation agendas. In our research and labs, we find the unhappiest executives are those vexed by relationship issues and complexities. There may be a dysfunctional culture that was not necessarily evident when they were recruited. There may be rivals for future leadership positions in the key stakeholder group. There may be cliques and very divergent personalities, or those seeking to maintain their autonomy. Incoming executives will have to consider diagnosing the prevailing cultures, personalities, and power structures and identify strategies for influencing key stakeholders to move their agendas forward. Fortunately, today there are a wide range of tools available to help executives develop influence strategies that will most effectively address the needs, personalities, and communication styles of stakeholders to both accelerate relationship building and gain their support for priorities. Another observation we make from our labs is that most incoming executives to the C-suite underestimate the communication demands. Underlying good relationships is good communications that keep people appropriately informed and brought into your initiatives. We often find new executives lack clarity on messages. Some haven't formulated a message discipline that shapes how they communicate the need for change in the organization. Many executives find it helpful to seek out internal communications or public relations support to define and establish a systematic communications plan during their transition. Thus, establishing good relationships is vital to transition success, and again, it can take up considerable time during the transition period. Chapters 16 to 19 deal with strategies to enhance influence and manage relationships. Transformation. C-suite executives are rarely hired to maintain the status quo. They are hired to drive change and improve performance. During the transition period, it is important to determine the transformation you must execute and determine how you'll drive the changes in the organization. Transformation can come in many different forms.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?